today is my favorite day. I love it all, but again, I repeat, I've been doing this for a very, very long time. I have heard many, many stories on both ends of abuse, from child abuse, narcissistic abuse, domestic violence, victims, offenders, and everything in between. And over the years, I understand the dynamics when we've gone over the power control wheel, cycle of abuse, different types of abuse, all of that. But forever, I've personally have always wondered why. Why power control? Why the cycle of abuse? Why do victims stay? Why do victims end up in another abusive relationship? Why do victims then become perpetrators? And yes, there's many, many, many external, social, cultural factors, societal factors. But there was always the gazillion, billion, $1 trillion question, why? And it wasn't until a handful of years ago that ding, light bulbs started to go off. When I stumbled upon, his name is Professor Sam Vaknin, and his explanation of it, his understanding of it, of narcissistic abuse, and the language he created. He does have a book. It's Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. It's probably the 101s and kind of how narcissistic abuse was birthed. He was the first person, I guess, in the world that had started a narcissistic abuse website. And if you guys want, we can go into kind of his history. But the way he explained it, it blew my mind. And it unveiled a lot of, I don't know, just a different, deeper or higher way to conceptualize this type of abuse, because narcissistic abuse is a different type of abuse, hands down. And the reason why it's very different, many reasons, but the main reasons why it's different is because it's the person who's experiencing narcissistic abuse essentially becomes obliterated and they become the narcissist. It's like it's a colonization of the mind. And we're going to talk about that today, which is, like I said, I'm geeking out about this kind of stuff.
So what you're saying is after someone experiences narcissistic abuse for so long, if they leave that relationship, the next relationship, they will be the narcissist.
So when we get further along today, not that they become the narcissist, what everyone thinks on social media, the evil, mean, but what happens is that, and when we talk about victims, like I said, we'll do a deeper dive, but just kind of to briefly answer your question is that, so say I'm a victim of narcissistic abuse. Say I break up, I separate, or whatever. Say he's in jail or she's on to the next relationship. Yeah, it's both ways. It goes both ways. And now I'm, on my journey in healing recovery. I'm in therapy and I'm doing, I'm doing the empty chair time, I'm doing inner child work, I'm doing shadow work, I'm doing all of these great things. They're great things. I'm not talking smack about these therapeutic techniques. But what happens is it doesn't really, quote unquote, work because it's not you. It's not the victim doing this shadow work, Gestalt technically, like it's not them. It's
Not their
actually
true self.
yes. It's the narcissist, and so even to kind of
This is exactly what's going on with one of my good friends. Like he was with his wife, ex-wife was a narcissist, and I didn't like her at all. I kept away from her. I didn't know why. I didn't know she was until now. And they divorced, but then they got back together, and she got back into his life, and now they're like really court everything. And now he's already jumped into another relationship. And when you said yesterday they suck like you're, I'm like, why do I feel? I swear.
Vampires, emotional vampires.
I swear, like I just talked to George this morning on the way here. Like I don't know why. Like I feel. I was like, Vanessa said blah blah blah. I'm like, oh my god, like what's going on? Like he didn't make me feel that way before. But
oh, I get what you're saying now because he's back in. Yep.
Recently, he's in another relationship now, which he's only single. I'm not to get another relationship. He's already in another relationship. But now when he comes around, I'm like, why am I so drained when he's around? I didn't feel like that before. And it's just like all clicked, like, oh my god.
And it is
He's
quite
a really good friend of mine.
It is quite fascinating for,
Crazy.
and maybe I don't want to be controversial, but victims when they separate, how they behave, I guess, interact is very grandiose. And it's kind of like it was with you about this one woman in the victim group, one of the victims group, victim of narcissistic abuse, and she's not with him, but she's very grandiose in a delusional grandeur style. You know, she's still been victimized. Mm-hmm. She's still the victim, but her temperament, embodiment,
they embody
it. Is almost a narcissistic embodiment of victimhood. You know, oops. Oh no.
It went off the TV.
Oh no. Here we go again. Oh goodness grief. Alright, I'm trying to get this back online. Come on. Yes. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about this.
So because they've been maintaining it so long and they're in that denial kind of state, it's kind of contagious?
That's what it sounds like.
It's not so much about the denial, why it's contagious. I will explain. No, I asked them. If I start answering that, then it's gonna. I want to try to.
It's gonna lead to.
I want to try my best to make it make sense, because I'm telling you guys, it is a little like it's a
rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole, but it's really like what? Like it's wild. Okay, so the false self. How do I focus this? Great. So the false self in adult pathological narcissism. Let me emphasize even just that. Adult pathological narcissism. Remember the other day I had mentioned that narcissism actually is a normal, healthy part of development. It's healthy. It's healthy. Even, I would even kind of say adult narcissism, some of it is healthy in the sense it creates confidence, stability, assurance, self-esteem, feeling that you are, have skills, so narcissism in itself isn't evil and insidious. How people, they're narcissists, like, it has nothing to do with good and evil and heaven and hell and war, like, but again, we're talking about narcissistic abuse, okay? So pathological, just bad. So adult bad narcissism is what we're talking about, okay? So in adult pathological narcissism, the true self, we'll talk about that, is often non-existent. It's the true self is not there. So the false self is a traumatized, abused, fearful, and helpless child. You know, when I tell people, whether it's just strangers or anyone wanting to enter into this type of work, domestic violence, the immediate judgment. Oh my God, am I gonna be alone in the room? Are they gonna assault me and strangle me? And no. Number one, we're not their target, and number two, yes, I'm not minimizing the severity of abuse, but clinically, psychodynamically, these men and women who engage in narcissistic abuse are no more than 6 years old. They're no more than 6 years old. Their temper tantrums are a lot more lethal than a 6-year-old's. An adult temper tantrum is a lot more lethal than a 6-year-old's temper tantrum. But remembering that they are a traumatized, abused, fearful, and helpless child. So the false self is an adaptive reaction to pathological circumstances, meaning bad environment. Remember yesterday we did the trauma timeline? Nothing to do, it is not the poor adult pathological narcissist fault. It is not their fault, the environment and the parents and the family of origin or world at the time that they were raised in. Prolonged abuse. We're going to talk about what abuse, and I'm talking about child abuse. I'm talking about what we're going to talk about what child abuse is. Sure, child abuse is physical abuse, neglect, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, absolutely. Quote unquote, that's the more, easily generally defined when you think of child abuse. But there is child abuse that does not include physical, sexual abuse, neglect, verbal abuse. There is child abuse that pedestalizes the child, objectifies the child, instrumentalizes the child. We'll talk about examples of that. And with that, it is prolonged. It's a pattern. It's not one incident of child abuse. It's prolonged abuse. But I just want to, like I said, give the introduction that when I say prolonged child abuse, I'm not just talking about physical abuse, because there are a lot of men and women that engage in narcissistic abuse as adults that were not physically, sexually abused whatsoever. And so some of the victims that are experiencing narcissistic abuse are like, what the hell? My husband or my wife is the golden child. They run the show. They're the most amazing, perfect man, woman, child in the family. Why are they being abusive? They never experienced abuse. So we're going to get into that. And trauma in early childhood or even early adolescence at the latest. We're going to be talking about the concepts or transition of separation and individuation. Y'all know what you heard? Separation and individuation. There's tons of, remember I said yesterday, all these psychology grandfathers that have talked about these childhood development processes, separation, individuation in infancy and childhood. Mr. Sam Vaknin proposes there's actually three. There's one in childhood, one in adolescence. When we were talking yesterday too about the trauma timeline, think about teens. That's there. We're talking about independence, pushing boundaries, about identity. That there's also a time for separation, individuation during that developmental stage. So if and then later on in adulthood, but if something during childhood interrupts that separation, individuation, or even adolescence, not 24/7, not all the time, not 365, but there's a significant risk for that child to get stuck in these infantile regress stages. So we're going to talk about that. The source of abuse varies. The perpetrators can be parents, can be role models, or even peers. The role models and peers, that's more, like I just mentioned, during not so much childhood, infancy, the formative, kind of 0 to 6 years. Think of, I don't know, an extreme example where childhood, or not childhood, like kids in high school that are star athletes. Remember you mentioned that yesterday. What are the celebrity stars, that Justin Bieber's, or I don't know. Those are obviously more extreme examples, but they have a false self. Taylor Swift has a false self. Justin Bieber has a false self. These athletes have a false self. These dance mom or not. You guys get what you follow me.
Would like high academic achievers fall into that group?
Yeah, absolutely. Even I don't know, a child prodigy that plays the pianist. Anything that has a separate false self that gets promoted and encouraged and idolized, and you're amazing, you're perfect, blah, 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 blah. And for whatever's going on in the environment, they might have their own motivations. Maybe it's their, like Britney Spears, their parents are, or a cash cow, or so on and so forth. So moreover, pampering, smothering, spoiling, or engulfing the child are also forms of abuse. And there's this concept we're going to talk about later too. It's called merger fusion, where they think of the when we're doing cycle abuse, the honeymoon stage, love bombing. Psychodynamically, it's called merger fusion. You become one symbiotic atom, one person, which is similar to the womb. Okay. So the false self is concocted by the abused child to fend off and ameliorate hurt and pain. And the abused child does not want to be. The helpless, hopeless, traumatized, and abused child abhors himself, like disdain, disgust, contempt, hates him or herself, finds him or herself unacceptable. So then the child creates an imaginary friend and an imaginary fantastic reality, which is the false self. What are you guys thinking so far?
It's only
About
two
the
paragraphs and
concoction.
it's only two paragraphs.
It's only 2
and
paragraphs,
it's
and it's only like a lot to digest.
Are we gonna get this PowerPoint?
You will get all of this stuff.
25% of what we're learning.
I'm like,
Well, I mean, yes, and part of DVRP treatment or IPVV treatment, we go over power control wheel, we go over the cycle of abuse, we go over equality wheel, because you're hearing it once, it's kind of, it's more of the, what?
Yeah.
You gotta hear it again. You gotta hear it again. You gotta hear it again. And I don't know, I mean, I love ballet. I wish I was a ballerina. That's my false self. But an interesting analogy with ballet is that if anybody gone to the ballet? Yeah, no. So at ballets, you'll have, obviously they're all ballerinas doing their thing, but you'll see one of the, prima ballerinas do their little pirouette, their little combination, but they do it once, then they do it twice, then they do it 3 times, and they do it 4 times. And the reason, there's actually a reason behind it is because the audience, they see it the first time, whoa, they're whoa. They see it the second time, whoa. They see that, so it just hits differently. You get to digest it, appreciate it, experience it multiple times. Same thing with how we ought to be, doing education, right? If you learn how to do a problem, solve the problem once, great, but you gotta repeat it. Okay. So the false self. So the false self is perfect. The false self is impermeable, meaning that it's
Nothing can defend.
yeah. Omniscient. It's everywhere, always and always. Like God. Brilliant, unique, powerful, has all the wisdom, has all the magic. And all of that, and then some, unlimited and instantaneously available for the helpless and hopeless child who is being abused. The false self knows everything, and he is like God. Think of the false self like, well, let me finish and then I'll kind of paraphrase. This superhuman false self is a cocoon. It shields and isolates the vulnerable child from the harsh realities of unjust, capricious, emotionally dangerous environment he or she grew up in. So imagine, again, like a cocoon, right? Here's your true core authentic self. That true core authentic self sure has feelings and desires and wants and fears and vulnerabilities. But that false, or that true core authentic self, which does take time to develop even a regular normal childhood, which nobody really does. But if that environment is toxic for whatever reason, the child can't be. It's not safe. So they like I said, develop this imaginary friend, which is this false self, and it acts as a barrier. Of protection. The false self fosters a sense of nothing can happen to me because I, the true self, am not there. And if I am not there, if I cease to exist, then the abused child becomes indifferent to abuse and punishment. They don't feel it. They don't feel it. And I guess in to their defense, good on you. Who the hell wants to feel that as a helpless little baby child?
Self-protected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this feels a little bit like multiple personality disorder.
So, I don't know if we should get into that in a second. So, from all of the, kind of kooky deep dives I've been doing and since this kind of realization of this understanding, yes. And so, I call them self-states, right? Multiple personalities. And nowadays they call them parts, and what have you. But when we get into more of what the different types of narcissists look like, because there's the somatic narcissist, there's the cerebral narcissist, there's the communal narcissist, there's these covert narcissists, there's a malignant narcissist, there's all these different types, which, sure, and when you think of multiple personality disorders, sure, that's on steroids. But essentially, in severe sadistic abuse, 100%. That's how this is the genesis. This is the breeding ground.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't be. They can't be their true, core, authentic self. Everyone has their own way of adapting and coping, but I think the multiple personality disorders, dissociative DID, that's on steroids. But if you pull it down a little bit for this, sure. I mean, it's baby versions of.
More subtle and invisible.
So, yes, but the thing is, if I'm not getting, we haven't even got into narcissistic supply yet, but if I'm not getting my supply, say I'm a somatic narcissist, which means it's all body, and whether I'm a man or woman, I'm getting all of my attention and supply because of my muscles or my body or my I don't know, just think of social media right now. But if I'm not getting my attention and supply from my body, somatic narcissist, I change. They call it shape-shifting. I change my state of false self because I'm not getting it that way anymore. And then I might turn to cerebral. So then I'm getting all of my supply through my...
You still need to have your needs met.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Externally.
Yes. So they'll shift. So that's why some go from covert to malignant or grandiose, But again, we'll talk about those different types.
So cerebral is the
Intellectual.
Okay.
It's the intellectual. And yeah, it's an intellectual.
This is a baby version compared to multiple personality.
Multiple personality disorder is a severe dissociative. It's like someone had mentioned that. What's that movie that was really popular? Split. I've never seen it.
So good.
Yeah.
They call them
That's
parts.
amazing.
It's like kind of what it sounds like. You have multiple personalities, but but so far that if I have multiple personality disorder, I might something might get triggered and I might regress into a little baby.
Yeah, then I'm integrated.
Oh.
Yeah, but so much that I'm literally talking, acting, behaving. My voice is like a little baby.
And it's crazy because there's studies on how like your physicality can change in terms of like eye color or have you heard that? Dr. V, or
Mm-mm.
is that true?
I haven't heard about the physiological stuff.
Yeah, that like the whole and it's in that movie. It's
And
demonstrates
Split?
some of that in Split.
I always remember like Sybil, right? Wasn't that?
Mhm.
That was
There's
like the
another.
first.
I'm
That one was
looking
so
it up
good.
right now.
You see, you look for
There's
that one.
another one on
That's good.
HBO that's really good with the split personality. Doom Patrol. There's a
Doom
character in
Patrol?
Doom Patrol. She was abused by her father, and she does an amazing job of playing this. And she has like a train station where she goes to, and like the train goes out and gets the new personality and brings it in. But
Oh,
it's a really good depiction of it. It's Doom Patrol.
but
That show's super weird.
typically if someone legit has multiple personality disorder, they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. It's almost, they go into like a fugue, they call it a fugue state where like time pass, they don't know. I've had little teens over the years. Oh, I have DID. Oh, this part's coming up right now. I'm like, girl, no, you don't. Talking about this part's named Charles, and starts talking about Charles. I'm like, okay, little girl, whatever. I'm like, you should not. But this poor little girl, I mean, legit was having, you know, abuse and trauma in her childhood. Not to minimize that, but you know. Kids nowadays in Access, they start, I have this, they have this.
Self-diagnosing.
How do you know what borderline is? Like, what in the... Yeah.
And then just to speak to this, and because you brought up teens,
Yeah.
working with adolescents for so long, I mean, and you mentioned kind of this normal development
Yes.
of this. It's like you spend any time in middle school, you spend any time in high school, you spend any time at a recovery center. This is almost every,
All of them.
yeah, it's all the
It's all
teens
of them.
that you work with.
Yeah.
Even in a normal public school, normally developing kids that develop out of it
Yeah.
later. But seeing this, it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. So, essentially, the false self is the abused child's dreams come true because the false self is possessed with everything the child is not and everything the child wishes they had in order to retaliate against the abuse. So at the core of it all, there is no form of greater self-hatred than the false self pathological narcissism. Narcissism is not self-love, how everybody says on social media that, oh, they all just love themselves. They all just love themselves. It's all about them. It's all about them. It is not an exaggerated sense of self-love. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. It is the investment of all mental energies, which the clinical term for that is called cathect. Cathexis. 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 Or cathect. CATHECT. It's an investment of all mental energies. You cathect. It's an investment of all mental energies in a piece of fiction, a story, a theater play, in a movie. The narcissist at front center stage, the movie theater play is all about, he's a prima ballerina, or what is it, Baryshnikov, and by doing so, cathecting, the abused inner child pathological adult narcissist ceases to exist. This is not about self-love. It is self-rejection. That's deep.
It got dark real fast.
What do you guys think about that?
It's so counter to what we
What you think?
thought it was. So that's where it gets even more confusing.
Yeah, and you'll see some. I mean, I don't want to bash all. Vaknin calls it self-styled experts. But I don't want to bash. I mean, some of them will say, "Oh yeah, they're deeply insecure. They're fragile," which yeah, but it's on another level that they don't even exist. Like there's no ego. There's no ego. There's no ego functions. There's no it doesn't exist.
You shut it down.
Yeah.
Will you send these? Can I get a copy of this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Therefore, pathological adult narcissism is a form of dysphoria, a kind of depression, prolonged grief, over internalized bad object. Internalized bad object. Oh. We'll get there. It's just a fancy way to say that they have internalized that they are of no worth, that they're bad. That they're bad. That they're unworthy of self-love. They're unworthy of existence. They're bad. Which is really sad. And they have prolonged grief. So the adult pathological narcissist as a child had been rejected, abused, instrumentalized. For example, he or she was told that he or she is bad and worthless if they didn't perform. So that's not like, again, physical, sexual abuse, sure, but go get those straight A's. Go be that, number one star athlete. Go be the next, Justin Bieber, number one in the orchestra. I don't know. But that if you don't perform, you're not worthy of my love. And so they internalize, I'm not worthy to exist. If my own mom, dad don't love me, if I don't do this, I'm unworthy. So the adult pathological narcissist received only conditional love. And guess what? That condition was not to be. The message the abused child had received from their parents, especially the mother, is that you're not good enough as you are. And you're not good enough for my love. And if you want me to love you, you have to be someone else. You have to perform and you have to provide for me. And it's not so much, again, the literal provide. It's not the literal provide food, shelter, clothing. You have to provide the mother's existence.
Represent me well.
Yeah. But it's even deeper.
Would be like the star athlete that the mother gets to show off.
Yes, that's the external supply, right? That's the external stuff. But also the mom, and we're talking about more severe, right? And sure, there's all different levels and, on a continuum or spectrum. But what's going to happen if the mother is empty?
There
was
was
no
no into
pleasing
the
her.
child.
It's never enough.
Yeah.
It's like we were saying with the cup, the empty
Yeah.
I was just thinking that too.
Yeah.
hole at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always Mother's Day and
I know. And so the abused child becomes an adult and goes through life trying to regain this lost love, unable to separate from this internal bad object, which represents his mother, for example. An internal object that keeps torturing him and keeps telling him or her, you're inadequate, you should be more, you're not good enough, and you can never be good enough. And again, the mother, it doesn't necessarily mean it has like the biological, it also can be a maternal figure. But the person that is supposed to be number one, you're number one. Your ground zero. Base.
This is also for fathers too, right?
No.
No, it's from
This is mommy stuff. Well, we're gonna get there. It's not that much pressure. It's not that much pressure. A mother only needs to be quote unquote good enough. This is not. Nobody's perfect. Mothers, fathers, nobody's perfect in life. But as long, and we're gonna move into it in a little bit on the next topic. A mother just needs to be good enough, not perfect, not dead, and psychologically not dead. Any thoughts or questions about the true self? I mean, the false self before we move on?
That's what I know.
So
Women are-
if they're, you know, this is basically, you know, it's unconditional love, or maybe it's conditional love. If the parents still kind of drive their kid this way, but there's conditional love, does it change the development of this? I mean, unconditional love. If there's unconditional love present, but they still kind of treat their child like push them, drive them.
I don't know your
Okay.
question. Ask it again. Ask it again.
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to understand your question.
Let me think this through.
Okay.
Yeah. Words are hard today.
It's okay. I wanted to make sure I understand so I can answer it.
It's okay.
But fathers, I don't want to discount fathers' importance. Think of it this way. Mother, is responsible for developing the self. Okay? That is mom's primary responsibility, task, to develop that a self exists. Daddy's role, father's role, primary task is to guide, teach how the self needs to interact in the world.
Makes sense.
Socializing, boundaries, not boundaries, but just like, but if there's no self to guide into the world,
I'm like the cheerleader and my husband's the coach.
so, but the child, the child needs to know that they are a player.
Created by mom.
Yes.
Can you say that about the mom again?
About the mom's
The mother's role.
the mother's role is to primary responsibility is to allow a true self to be created. Then the father's role is to guide how the true self ought to interact in the world.
It makes me think of attachment, like a safe
Yeah.
haven.
Yeah,
safe
yep,
harbor kind
yep,
of thing,
yep.
But like allowing it, even in failure, even in
Yep,
right,
yep.
that safe like
Yep.
both and.
Yep, yeah.
Yay, we're happy you succeeded. Oh, failure's allowed.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What happens when the father's portion is missing?
Well, sadly, I mean, and statistically, it's more often than not that fathers don't,
Because they don't have the
Are
father
in the
to guide and teach them that either.
well,
Take over.
that's one result. That's one result. Then, kind of what we're left off, what we all are struggling with when it comes to DV. So say the mommy does create a self, and that self is just okay. Good luck, right? Not that mommy's it, but I'm just trying to. And the child doesn't know how to interact in the world. They get abused. They get victimized. They get someone to control them and be daddy.
Dang.
Oh, that's really
Daddy issues?
Yes.
Daddy issues?
There's you guys know the comedian Monique?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen her stand up? There's a piece and I'm paraphrasing and probably butchering it, but the sentiment is there was a piece where in her stand up where I think she was getting into it with Tyler Perry or something, like she was sharing some story, and that her husband wanted to go to this meeting with Tyler Perry, and Tyler Perry's like, no, like this is your. I don't know. Forget about the details. But the point being, she had kind of owned and really, owned and with pride that her husband's her daddy. And the thing about that was that she's like, I wasn't raised. I didn't have someone to protect me. You know, and sorry, I mean, I not to talk shit, but I would rather have a man protect me than a woman. And that's just by physical stature. Like, there is something that a masculine can do that feminine can't.
And that feels really primal, right? Like, we know that something bigger is more protective than something maybe it's smaller.
Yeah.
So if I don't feel protected, I don't feel guided, I don't feel provided for, I don't, there's lots of stuff, especially all now on social media, about the feminine and the masculine and the feminine divine and the masculine, now masculine talks, what is it? Toxic masculinity, which I think there is something I like, but yes, that needs to be part of the discussion. The masculine and the feminine. I'm not saying that men need to be brutes and, but I also think women, feminine, have had to play feminine and masculine. And so if a woman is playing feminine and masculine because they have to, it's very difficult to how are you going to conjoin in a relationship? That's why the power struggles all the time.
The model to be both.
And then it creates other issues for the child about gender roles. Is the big strong bossy woman, or the meek father, or the big brute of a father, or that whole feminine masculine is, like I said, a whole nother topic. No. but it definitely is important. The conversation should be at the table, 100%, because that's the reality. There's a lot of children being raised without without dad, a lot.
And that's not just the biological father. It could, like, what if they have uncles and, like, it's a father figure, absent father figure.
So there's actually, oh my god, I wish I probably have it somewhere in my notes somewhere. There is a I don't know if, I think they did studies, but there's some place in the world, I don't know where, not here, where children don't have moms or fathers. They have tribes. It's like a village. It's a village that's like, I now I'm gonna probably try to figure out where this is, but I know it exists, and that the whole thing about that, and these children are more or less healthy. They're not abusive. They're not engaged in violence. So that whole village dynamic tribe, is I think something to look into, because it's not, again, just about mommy and daddy, although that's just the family formation here in the States, but it's you need masculine, feminine. You do. You need a self to be developed, and you need feminine to develop the self. You need masculine to teach for the self to interact in the world.
Every man acts in the role of a father. At least the one I'm thinking of, it's kind of weird, but like once a woman is pregnant, every man has sex with her, so they never know who actually is the biological father, so they all feel paternal.
Say that one more time.
It's some island, I'm in the same place. It's some island, like way in the Pacific or something.
To the village.
Next to the village, yeah.
But that was the practice that, pretty remote. And the idea is, if you've had sex with a woman and you can't do DNA or anything, you believe that this could be your child, and so you feel protective of the child.
So everybody's protecting this child.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, when you go in and you throw in culture, I mean, my aunt lives in Africa. She lives in Botswana. She's been there for over 20 years. She's an AIDS doctor out there. Excuse me. Anyways, she's here visiting. We're just, wrapping it up. But she was saying that that there's a lot of, she wants to get into like sexual abuse and trauma work, and that she said that men won't marry a woman unless they know with confidence that they can have a child. So there's a lot of women that have babies from another man so they can prove to this man that now I am worthy to be a wife. But in order to prove that I'm worthy to be a wife, there's a lot of abuse from fathers, cousins, uncles, just people in the wherever, and as more of like, let me I don't want to say rape, but let me
So incest, like family incest,
everything, but it's with the goal to prove that she's worthy to get married to this man.
Wow.
Tough luck if the guy turns out to be impotent after he marries her.
Anyways, okay.
Quick question. So
Yes.
what happens in our society now that same-sex couples are a thing?
I know.
Adoption is accessible.
I know. Yeah. Here's the thing. Again, society, we change, evolve, or devolve, degenerate, I don't know, whatever. But this stuff this is psychodynamics brains. This is, sure, it's going to have influence, but this applies to China, Africa, 1900 to
Because at the end of the day, you do need a man and a woman to create a child.
Yeah.
Or some part of both to
Yeah, I
create
mean,
a child. So it's...
these are fundamental ego functions of how we conceptualize the world, how we conceptualize the self. This is, everybody goes through these kinds of, I don't say normal processes, but kind of developmentally, That's why, sure, some of the Erickson stuff was, I don't know when he developed it, 1900, I don't know. Still not 100%, but still has pretty good, foundation, Yeah. Okay, so the true self. So the true self for the narcissist, adult pathological narcissist, is an inner abused child. The false self imitates the true self. The traumatized and abused child adapted to their harsh reality by eliminating, destroying, sacrificing their true self, their inner child, to their false self. It's almost like, think of kind of a little dramatic, but you sacrifice yourself. It's like you think of religion. Think of rebirthing. Think of I don't know, human sacrifice, throwing you
push their true self off a cliff.
Yeah.
So they can,
Yeah.
They can be safe.
Yeah.
Be that fake.
Yes. The remnants of a true self are so ossified, so shredded, so obliterated, so repressed that the true self, traumatized, abused inner child, is dysfunctional, rendering the pathological narcissist useless, resulting in atrophy. Atrophy is like, like if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use your true core authentic self, you lose it. Yeah, lose a muscle. Yep. And eventually leading to non-existence. Which is confirming these concepts, these constructs, clinical constructs are so confirming to me when I introduce these concepts to clients that I know are full-on narcissists. They will, every single one of them will have said to me, well, what if my false self is my true self? They think their false self is their true self. I said, no. There's true self and false self. They can't, they think that they merged in to their false self, which they did, but it's as if this truth, it died. There's no merge. Sure, they merged, but it's dead. They think that they're still their true self in their false self.
They have no sense of who the true self was.
Yeah. It's so obsolete, so gone, so
Killed it.
yeah, it's gone. They don't even know. They kind of like, well, what do you? And so that's why when you practically now let's kind of go back to earth. How come you don't have any empathy? Don't you have empathy? They don't know what the hell feelings are. Like they don't. It's kind of wild, when I just want them to be nice to me. Can't you just be nice to me? You said you promised. You promised. And they don't have any empathy because true core authentic selves is required.
Is there a way to like revive that?
Resurrect that true self.
Yeah, it's a resurrection.
She does like
It's a resurrection. It's a resurrection. And so, yes. Yes. Well, yes. Yes.
But they have to
But
recognize it.
the before the resurrection has to be a mortification. So there's narcissistic injury and there's narcissistic mortification. We will talk about that today. But narcissistic injury is like an ouch. It's like you try a kink in the armor, right? You're poking a hole in the false self. And then they flare up. The defenses flare up. Narcissistic mortification is the false self gets wiped out. It implodes, explodes. Lots of different ways.
Yeah. So I'm thinking a breakup would be an injury. It could be a big injury. So if their supply leaves them.
That can be an injury. It can be a mortification. It depends.
Both,
A mortification, an easy way to explain a mortification are all the DV murder suicides. That's a mortification. That the wife or partner's getting a restraining order, trying to break up, trying to divorce. That's a mortification.
Is this humiliation or shame?
Yes. Yes. So the two testimonial. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just confused because I'm like, but then you're saying that they killed their partner, right?
To make you feel any better.
No, but it's saying
Resurrection.
that actually changed them?
about killing a partner, like a murder suicide,
Oh, well, they killed themselves.
or even just a just I'm gonna say regular homicide, but like like if they don't kill themselves,
Right. I'm saying, does it actually change them?
no,
Right. So.
no. But I'm saying that mortification is like the false self. They go to black. They go to abyss. They go to I don't exist.
I thought we were asking if there was a possibility of
For a healthy mortification?
Right.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
Not dead.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
an example of a unhealthy.
Yeah, that's just an extreme example of a mortification, you know, but more of the, you know, non-murder suicide mortifications, sure, it happens all the time. And the two testimonials that I'm bringing in, oh yeah. One's coming in today. And another one's coming in the last day. Both of them went through mortification. And they'll both describe it.
Yeah.
They'll both describe it that either that I buried him, and they'll say, yeah, I was suicidal. I searched 30 million different ways how to kill myself. I was depressed I didn't get out of bed for a week.
So essentially, that's an ego death.
Bingo. Ego death. But remember, they don't have an ego. But
It's the narcissistic ego.
But yeah, it's a psychological suicide that they didn't do upon themselves, that someone did to them. It's like, you know, and now back to trendy stuff. Oh, the mask is off. You hear it all on social media.
So
You take off the mask, you know, like sure. But
the narcissistic injury will be like, oh shoot, like it kind of finds the ego. And
yeah,
that was
narcissistic injury can be
injury.
can be a DV. Can you know, calling 911, neighbor calling 911, they get arrested in front of everybody, in front of their kids, and
Something that's going to cause like embarrassment or shame.
yep, that it's not a mortification. A mortification needs to be like there's zilch supply. Sure, mask was off. They feel that they are losing it. Like, I don't know. It has to be in front of people that matter, or to that. It has to be a perfect cocktail. It has to be a perfect cocktail. Narcissistic injuries happen all the time. Like I said, some could be a DV arrest. Some could be someone just kind of, you don't know. Or if I'm a somatic narcissist and someone else is stronger or more beautiful or whatever, that's going to injure my ego. If anybody questions them, you know, say there's a neuroscientist or neurosurgeon and some neurosurgeon, they're talking and, oh, well, surely you must know that.
That's why the mirroring works, huh?
Yeah, sure. Surely you must know that. What? And then whatever, however the narcissist.
Blake Lively be a narcissist?
Huh?
Blake Lively?
I don't know too much about. I mean, I know all the drama with her. Well, I remember. Do you guys remember the Johnny Depp and the
Amber Heard. Oh.
Amber Heard? That's narcissist borderline, like.
That's the couple, right?
That's a narcissist borderline couple. I mean, come on, doing a whole, whatever it was, $10 million show in courtroom about a breakup and. That's a stage. That's the stage. That's their theater. That's their, you know.
So the mortification is like they hit rock bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. And so to answer your question, sure, they hit rock bottom, they bury, they ego death, you know, all these terminologies or, you know, whatever, images. And then they re-erect, you know, they resurrect. And so, and sometimes they resurrect, and it's just back. I mean, it's not worse. It's not worse. It's just kind of more of the same.
But see how they can find just a new false self. Yeah.
And so some may never change.
Right.
It's like
You say
2.0.
sometimes it will be easier to go with another false self than to heal this abused child.
If they're not, you know, like I said, with the two that are coming in, I mean, they both have resurrected, you know, and again, the big thing in life, you guys, is about coping in relationships. If you're not hurting yourself or hurting other people, that's a win. That's a win. Nobody's perfect.
True.
Nobody's perfect, and so I know. And so, you know, one of them kind of, I think, resurrected. They both are, you know, are fine. But if you have an understanding, at least, of these concepts, and you are, you know, resurrected to another false self, you get to choose. At least you're a little bit more intentional, you know. But yes, some resurrect and kind of back to the same old, you know, you find someone else. Because, and we'll talk about this, narcissistic abuse, it is really the abuser's attempt at a repetition compulsion to recorrect their childhood, to complete the process of separation and individuation, to become a self, to become a divided person. And so it's really, they kind of have this, like I said, repetition compulsion of always trying to reenact childhood that just wasn't ever done properly. Yeah. And it's funny, the narcissists that do come into therapy on their own, there's plenty that come on their own. It's generally during an ego death or a crisis or whatever. And they'll come in and they'll say, just fix me. just pull me back to fix it. And so they don't, and here's kind of what, for me, how I kind of conceptualize, okay, is this like a narcissist or a false self? You know, I'm trying to, and the big difference, easy difference, and again, just trying to make it simple, is that people either want to repair or people want to restore. There is a difference. Repair is, if I'm coming into therapy during a crisis, during a meltdown, during some life adjustment or what have you, and I want to repair, that's healthy. Because that means I want to kind of explore. I want to know kind of what happened and how can I repair this, and there's you know, guilt. You know, there's no shame. There's guilt. There's, you know, a desire to look in the, what did I do? You know, just kind of, I don't know. There's just more to work with when someone wants to come in and repair. But when someone someone comes in and they just want to restore, just pull me back. I got to get, everyone else is a problem. Just get me back to functioning. I gotta go back to work. I want my kids to love me again. I want my wife to get back with me. I want my husband to, you know, stop doing this. I don't know, whatever the circumstances are, but it's like they don't want to sit and explore and process, and because in order to sit and explore and process, you need to have a true core authentic self on board.
Do you have a percentage of people that actually know they're narcissists?
If you were to ask them and really, you know, I mean, you can't say, oh, you're a narcissist, you know, but like, if you were to really ask them and kind of deconstruct someone who's a narcissist, 99.9 will say, yep, that's me.
But before coming to, like...
No, I mean, not me. I mean...
I'm just saying to therapy and saying, like, do people really recognize
it
on their own?
I think they can. I think they do, but it depends who's telling them. Because then it points to their injury and the ego and injury, you know. But I've had tons of people come in like, oh, my wife says I'm a narcissist. My blah blah blah, you know. And I said, okay, well, what do you think? Well, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about it. And so, and they'll say, yeah, and not so much yes. They'll be like, sometimes they're even like, well, they will acknowledge it, but then because narcissists want to be so unique, they'll be like, well, I'm the best narcissist. You know? I'm the most unique narcissist. Like, seriously, they're like, oh, the narcissist, like, they'll be like, yeah, but they'll even think that they're more grandiose than the stereotypical narcissist. It's wild. It's fucking wild. But, so they don't. So they will, to answer your question, they will acknowledge it, but also, someone's truly narcissist will be like, you're not going to put me in a category with all the other lame narcissists.
I'm the best.
I'm the best.
I'm no lame narcissist.
It's like that.
Yeah. Well, there was one. I had I have magazines in the front, and one of the guys in the group, I don't know, it was like a Time magazine, and it was about the psychopathic mind or narcissist mind or something like that. And he's like, nah, that book's nothing. You should, I should be in that book. I should be on that cover of that page. You should study me. I want to, oh God, okay.
Time Magazine's Narcissist of the Year.
Yeah. No, so they
we have
don't.
The top 100 here.
I mean, again, delivering who it is and all that stuff, but if presented, no, absolutely not, no. Some covert narcissists may. Some covert narcissists may. I had a couple that I was working with for a long time, and they were separated, and we were doing work, and they had a couple kids, and they were trying to, we're trying to do work to repair and reunify and all of that. And, we were doing good work, and this was years ago. This was kind of before my deep dive in my narcissistic journey. And we're doing, decent, good work, and we're at the time, okay, let's start moving in, And then all of a sudden, he just peaced out. He just kind of just stopped text, just kind of just ghosted her, really. And I'm like, what the and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, nothing crazy happened, nothing, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a damn covert narcissist. He fooled me, God damn it. So I said, something's up. Because she thought, oh, well, maybe he got sick and made all these
excuses,
rationalizations, intellectualizations. Oh, well, he's really stressed with his job. Maybe he's just trying to apply for a job. I don't know. Just all the, I'm like, no. No. Comes to find out, he was, was hanging out with his first high school girlfriend and blah, 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 blah. But I recollect and I look back and I'm like, oh my God, like, goddamn. It was showtime. Every time they did a little coffee date, or like they would go to therapy and then go to dinner after. It was like a routine for him, but it was always like his show in the couple's therapy session. That's a covert narcissist. He loved it because it was just supply. That guy did not want progress. That guy did not want repair. he just took it as an opportunity to talk about himself. And it's hard, again, there's no little, Men in Black detector, like, boom, you're a narcissist. Boom, you're a narcissist. Like, and as therapists, they come in for, 45 minutes, an hour, and we don't see him for a week or maybe a month or months.
But then what better stage for him that with this person that is supposed to cure me?
Yeah.
Even adding more to his
ego. Yeah. And he would always, I just, the covert narcissists are more kind of like Eeyores.
They're so exhausting.
Like, if only people knew how wonderful I was, and they're more. They're just more woe is me. Like, you could do so much. It's like they still
That's
suck
like stroking the ego
all
when you do
the
that.
time with covert.
I'm way too interested in this.
I think we all are.
Okay, last thing. though.
Last thing, and then we'll do a question. We'll take a break.
I'm so sorry.
No. I mean, that's what we're here for.
I think my question is still like, but is anybody just in denial about this?
About what? About them?
Being a narcissist, because even the covert narcissist doesn't sound like they're in true denial, or maybe they are because they don't want to change. I don't know.
Are they in denial?
Yeah, is anybody in denial? Like,
In order to be in denial, you have to have a true self.
Oh.
I think she's asking
so
if you
you
confront them as being a narcissist.
Denial doesn't exist.
So you mean like you're saying like someone's a narcissist and they say, no, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess it kind of makes sense that you wouldn't believe it if you don't. Yeah. Aren't
That requires
yourself.
insight.
Yeah. Okay.
That requires awareness.
How do they do, or do they ever do a trauma timeline? If they're hiding from the abuse.
So how do they do?
How do you do a trauma timeline with that?
So here's the thing. Let me, and I'll kind of, I think, answer both your questions ish. How do I say this? So in regular therapy, like, sure, trauma timeline, or you're in denial, let me help you gain some insight, and this is kind of traditional therapy, right? We want to, what I was doing with couples, like, let's do Gottman, or whatever it is, right? We see them, we validate them, we acknowledge them, all the healthy therapy stuff. With a narcissist, it doesn't work. It just does not work. And I'm talking about full blown. I'm being,
Right.
Because you're doing therapy with a false self.
And that's what comes to mind. How do you?
You're doing therapy. So really, truly, what you're supposed to be doing for a true, full-fledged, full-blown narcissist is you're supposed to traumatize them.
It's against everything.
I know.
Instinct that we
I know.
have.
So
I know.
Are we gonna be talking about mom and like really digging at that? Or
No, it would probably, tell me if I'm wrong, it sounds like this would be for a somatic narcissist that thinks they're all like muscle and everything. You'd be like, my client, that I had yesterday, he benches 500 pounds,
So
which
you
is
gotta pull them
copying
down.
injuries, which is copying that.
That's
narcissist.
cold therapy, right? One-uppers.
Cold therapy.
What is it called?
It's called cold therapy.
Oh, never heard of that.
Cold.
Cold.
COLD?
Yeah.
Cold therapy.
But you're just being mean.
That's cold.
And just be mean.
But it's like what I was saying yesterday. Like you said that stuck with me because I'm a family member, but I do that, and it resonated. So I was like, oh yeah, when you respond with that sounds amazing that you're doing that. You don't get entangled, right? They're getting what they want, but you're not giving them anything of
I
you.
love that for you.
Right. It's the engagement, but not the engagement.
Yeah,
You
you're
can
not
be
you're not absorbing
observing.
all their
kind of.
Yeah,
Very
yeah, you
good.
can be
The
observant.
reaction that they're looking for.
Yeah,
I think I do that with my brother.
And what happens is the defenses flare up. The defenses flare up. Defenses flare up. Defenses flare
Oh,
up.
yeah, it gets nasty. I'm talking about my family member, but yeah, it gets real nasty real fast because you're not giving them what they need to maintain their false self. It's the paper cuts of like, what is it?
You know, paper cuts are the worst.
So when we as healthy therapists validate the narcissist's false self, we're not doing shit.
We're not doing good.
We're not doing shit.
We're helping to maintain that.
Yes. Yes. You know, someone who's a true core authentic self, of course, they need validation. They need regard. Like, I'm not saying to traumatize and talk shit, but, you know, it is a complete upside down of everything we know as mental health clinicians.
Wow.
Is a complete upside down, topsy-turvy. Because we the whole idea of traumatizing, you know, the client is so the defenses flare up, and that really so that inner abused child it can show up.
Because with that, you can explore with them. Oh, I noticed that upset you a little bit.
Like when you poke holes in it, you can go, oh, what's in there? What's behind that? Wait.
Yeah.
Don't they also see situations like challenges, like going to a therapist, or like going in front of a judge? To them, it's just like, oh, if they succeed, it's like a trophy or something.
Oh yeah, because look how grandiose, you know. They want to be around the biggest, bestest, baddest, and win them all. That's why they're so charming.
For my friend, I'm causing injury for him.
Okay, shall we take a break? Yes. Okay. Let's take a break.